Saturday night, Arjan Bhullar, the first fighter of Indian descent, the first fighter of Indo-Canadian descent, the first Sikh fighter ever to compete in the UFC, and to be successful in doing so, by the way, won his debut on Saturday night against Luis Henrique at the UFC 215 card in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. This is a massive deal for the company. Gold medalist, 2010 Commonwealth Games, competed in the Pan Am Games, competed in the 2012 London Olympic Games. They have never had someone of Indian descent compete in the UFC. Not only that, but be successful and be a heavyweight with the background and as well spoken as he is. I feel like if everything goes right, if they promote this man the right way, he could be one of the biggest stars in the world. And he got off to a great start on Saturday and really wanted to have him on the program to talk a little bit more about his journey up until this point and the future. He joins us now via the magic of Skype. Here he is, Arjan Bhullar. How about that? Wow. There he goes. What a great performance on Saturday. Thank you so much for having us, for being on the show. Excuse me. I feel like I'm in your world here. Thank you so much, Arjan, for coming on. I'm very excited right now.
I could see usually you're very mild-mannered and,
yes.
and composed. I'm very happy to be here, man. It means we're doing the right thing, and we are right where we should be right now.
Absolutely. Well, let me start there, Arjan. I mean, when you started this journey just a couple of years ago, you're 7-0 now, 6-0 going into the UFC. Did you think that you would be here as quickly, not on this show, but in the UFC, one fight under your belt? Did you feel like it would come this soon?
100%, man. We had it mapped out. There was the biggest learning curve in the transition, aside obviously from the skill set, was one, dealing with the business aspects and promoters and contracts and how to, because you don't do that as an amateur athlete. And then two, just the nature of the beast, people pulling out and dropping out and that type of thing. So we had a general plan and timeline on how we wanted things to develop and go. And there were a few stalls in there, but the overall, this is exactly how I envisioned it. And it was all pieces were already there. We just had to put it together, and all we were successful.
So as I mentioned, you have fought on the highest stages possible as far as amateur wrestling is concerned. How would you compare your UFC debut? I mean, it's hard to compare like your debut on the prelims to the Olympics, but in terms of how you felt, the buzz, just being there in front of your fellow Canadians, I saw a ton of Indian flags in the crowd. I mean, for you personally, where does Saturday night compare to the other events that you've competed in?
Ariel, you were there. You witnessed it. You felt the energy. I don't think anyone's debuted like that before on a second fight out of the card. You saw the Indian flags. You felt the energy. We had a chartered jet 737 come out of Vancouver filled with our people. We had people from the UK, California, Toronto, India fly out. We sold out the Union Hall for the after party. And if Jinder was able to get out of that damn hurricane, it would have just been pandemonium. So, it was special. But all those pieces were also put together. They were there. I've had so much support over the years, man. It was, if you're familiar with my story, man, my family immigrated from India. My father wrestled in India for many, many years. As a child, those are my earliest memories. Are accompanying my dad for his tournaments, going to India. And I've been going every year ever since. And we got so much involvement on the ground there in terms of the sport and just giving back. And throughout my wrestling career, I had a lot of support worldwide, and that's also because there's deep roots of the sport of wrestling in the Indian culture. So it's been a special ride.
Was your dad in attendance on Saturday?
For sure, man. For sure he was. He would never miss it. My father wrestled. He was there. So he wrestled before me. If you just knew the story, bro,
tell us the story.
Uncles. So we came. So my grandfather immigrated in 1959. He came here, not a dollar in his pocket, never knew the language, had a turban and a beard. There was racism back then. He was allergic to sawdust, but he worked in a sawmill because all you had for work then was labor work. So he was carted off on a stretcher to the hospital several times because of respiratory issues, but that's all he could do for work. He stayed here, like I said, many people to a house, to a room. 11 years he sacrificed by himself. And then he called over my grandma and my father, who's unborn. He had never seen his dad. My grandma was pregnant with my father in India when my grandpa left. So he was 11 years old when he came over. He had never met his dad. They came over. My uncles got to work right away. You had to bring in bacon. My uncles, they actually hid weights in their clothes to be allowed to work in the sawmill because they were underage and lied about their age, and they were too small. But we needed the work. We needed the money. So that's where my family comes from, that hard work. And my father, being the baby of the family, the one thing that came over with the family was the sport of wrestling. It's got a huge history in the country of India. It's the founders of our religion practiced wrestling. It's in the cave paintings all the way through. You had old rivalries, villages against villages, pitting their champion wrestlers against each other. So that sport came over with my father. And so he got into the school system out here, high school, and he went to wrestling. I know this. I don't know the language. I don't know anybody else here, but I know this sport. So he trained here. We have a gym in our house. It's called an akada, which is a dojo, some other people call it, or what have you. My uncles built that by hand, cinder blocks, on our farm. I'm born and raised on a farm. For my father, had no heat. He's like, you guys got luxuries nowadays. They burned wood for heat, and then they got a propane tank later on. And that's where he did work, man. And you look at the home videos, you look at him competing. I was always right there beside him. My journey started in diapers in that sport, and I've had the love ever since, man.
Wow, what a story! That's unbelievable. So obviously, you go down this wrestling road and you make it to the Olympics. You're successful. When do you start to think about MMA? When do you start to think that, okay, post-wrestling, post-amateur wrestling, this is the path that I'm going to go? Because I've heard you say, and I've read you say on multiple occasions, you didn't need to do this. It's not like this wasn't something that you had to do. You chose to do MMA. Why did you choose MMA ultimately?
100%. Growing up, there were no Indian athletes to look up to. I'm sitting in school, people coming in for assemblies, this, that, talking to kids. It was never someone I could personally connect to who was raised like me. Ariel, but there's over 20 of us living in a house right now. Even we're Indian, man. We're as Indian as it gets. I have multiple sets of parents. My uncles and my aunts are my mother and father. They changed my diapers. We all still live like how when we first came in from India. We have a bigger house now because we've sacrificed and got that work ethic and we're afforded that. But we're packed in tight the same way. When people used to come to school and talk to us about growing up and struggling, I could never relate to it. They didn't look like me. They didn't come from the family I came from or had the culture upbringing I had. So that had a huge impact on me. And then growing up, hearing about the struggle of my family and other people from my community that came here, sacrificed for the future for someone like myself, that had a huge impact on me. The physical altercations that, my family had to go through, the racism that was prevalent in the community at that time, those stories were passed along, and that was wood on my fire. I thought, I'm going to make something of myself. So that sacrifice when my grandfather came over, when my parents came over, it wasn't for nothing. And I'm going to remember who I am, and I'm going to, for the next generation, they'll know that one of our own did something. So that was my motivation. And when I was finishing up with wrestling, I was looking at the sport of MMA. I wanted a greater platform. For me, it's a platform to connect with people. That's what sport's always been. The one person I did look up to when I was growing up was Ali because of what he did beyond sport. He wasn't the most skilled guy out there. He found a way to win, beat the odds, but what he did for his people beyond sport is what he's remembered for. So there are things I'm passionate about and that I want to stand up for and live beyond sport and do beyond sport. And I felt MMA would give me greater access to the people to be able to do that. It's a hybrid of the sport of wrestling. People can understand it in India and around the world. And I could also use the skill set that I've been sharpening since I was a kid, the sport of wrestling in a different arena now. So all those things. And then if you look at the sport of MMA, especially heavyweight division, the wrestlers have dominated, man. DC was a guy I looked up to when I wrestled. That guy was an animal on the wrestling scene. King Mo. These were the guys I knew on the U.S. team. Henry Cejudo. We shared a locker room that night. That was cool, man. Came full circle. And these guys were all dominating. And I'm like, look, I've been in the training room with these guys. I've competed against others. Cole Conrad, he's the first Bellator champ. That's one of my first big wins when I was coming up through the wrestling system. I'm like, I can compete with these guys. I can beat these guys. There's nothing they're doing that I know I can't. So I just dove in after that and said, you know what? This is my platform. This is where I'm going to make the impact.
You mentioned sport as a platform. Sport is an opportunity to get your thoughts out there and to connect with people. What are some of those things that you are passionate about? What are those messages that you're talking about that you want to get out there and fight for and represent?
Man, it just in terms of there's just so much stuff, as you can tell. First and foremost, I'm a proud Indian, right? I wanted me to tell the story of my people, of who we are, who Sikhs are, what Sikhs, where they come from. People don't understand. You see a guy with a turban and a beard all throughout history that they've been respected. We're not Muslim, we're Sikhs. We've been respected for hundreds of years for the types of people we are. We're very inclusive. We stand for certain something. Beyond that, humanity. There's so much out there because of this social media stuff that's BS. That's not even real. They got people, live passionately, be fulfilled. Listen to your inner voice. Know who you are. Chase your dreams. All that type of stuff. That's the stuff that needs to get out there. Not this bullshit about money and clothes and this, that. None of that stuff is real. Like for example, like you touched on, there's many other things I could be doing. But I choose to do this at this time because this is what I want. People don't understand it. Like, you're smart. You got so many other options that you could be doing. Why are you going out there and getting in a fist fight? But it's something that speaks to me, and that's what I want to do. So I'm going to chase that. When I'm done with it, I'm done with it.
Did you consider pro wrestling?
Yes. After the Olympics, that conversation was had, and I gave my man Jinder a call at that time because he was on his first go around. I go, "What's it about, man? Let me know what this thing's about." They'd reached out to get me down in Florida, and at the development center. And I just want to know what the lifestyle was like. And he told me how long they're on the road and how grueling it is. And I'm a family guy, man. I can't be on the road as much as they are. Some people love it that much, and it's worth it to them. I love pro wrestling. I'd love to dabble in it, but full time, heck no. I grew up on the stuff. It's cool. I support Jinder from afar, and I still want to compete. I have that itch. So I actually got in contact with King Mo. I want to give him a shout out. I said, Mo, he's down at AK at that time. I don't know what this MMA game's about. AK's got the best heavyweights. I got family 15 minutes from the gym. I want to know what it's about. He said, come through the gym and just throw yourself in here and see what it's about for yourself, man. And that's what I did.
And you walk in there with King Mo and Cain Velasquez in DC. Did they put you through the grinder right off the bat? What was it like as a newbie, if you will, in that sport to go in a room with those guys?
You know what? To be honest, it was intimidating. It was nerve-wracking. It was exciting. It was exhilarating. It was all those things, man. Because it was still competition, and I knew I could wrestle, but I didn't know what all this punching and kicking business was about. But I liked it. I've been a fan of boxing forever. So I've taken, I've studied that sport and I've enjoyed it, watching it for many, many years. And I was like, I wonder what it's like to really get in there and see what these guys do for training. That's when you know whether you can do it or not. So I got down there, and it was very cool, man. Big props to Cain. He was a man. He was a champ at that time. He came up, introduced himself. Javier Mendez, Bob Cook, Daniel, Lil Sean Bunch, all these guys I knew from the wrestling scene. Showed me love right away. You think these guys are on TV, big pay-per-view stars, champions. Maybe you have assumptions that they might think they're, head in the clouds type thing. But they were amazing, man.
Hey, Arjan, let's we're kind of losing you there, and I don't want to lose anything that you say. Let's try to reconnect with Arjan here because all of a sudden the connection got a little tricky there. So we're going to reconnect with Arjan here in a second. Talking to him, man, that guy, what a storyteller. See what I mean when I say that the UFC has something with Arjan Bhullar? I mean, this is a representative. This is an ambassador right here. This is an incredible stuff. All right, let's go back.
I lost you there. Sorry,
yes. Are you back? There you are. Here we go. So you were talking about walking in there for the first time and seeing those guys.
Yeah, so this is how it went, man. Like, I was there. I didn't even know how to wrap my hands, Ariel. Cain Velasquez wrapped my hands the first time I'm there the whole time.
Wow.
You know? So I had to borrow some gear. Hob got me wraps. He got me, I think I had gloves at that time. They got me headgear. And DC, funny enough, was getting ready for his first fight with Jones, I believe, that first time through. But, you know, they showed me so much love. You know, I knew that's where I wanted to be. You have all these assumptions. These guys are champions, big deals. They're on pay-per-views. But if those guys from the top show you that kind of love, it tells you what the team's about. Javier Mendez was fantastic. Those guys were fantastic. And the way they train, it's very similar to wrestling. It's the grind. I love it. So, and funny enough, so my dad's there with me, you know, and Hob goes, so can you go? And I'm like, well, I'm here. I want to see what this is about. He's like, okay, you're going to be in the cage with DC. Be ready. I was like, what? My first time through. And that was wild. We went one round, and it was pure adrenaline, kind of like that end of that second round. I was just going on pure adrenaline, and I went for a couple of minutes, and we finished the whole round. It was good, man. It was my first introduction to AKA and the team, and it was fantastic.
So what do you do now? You spend the beginning of your camps at AKA, and then you go back home to BC?
Yeah, so I've got family 15 minutes from the gym there at AKA. So I'll be here in between. I've got great coaches up here in Vancouver, sharpening up my tools, that sort of thing. And then if say, you know, I've been down there when DC's got fights, or if I've got something coming up, I'll dip down there. I can go anytime. Funny enough, so my dad, when he was wrestling, my parents got married. My dad's traveling all over the world. My mom's like, look, I want to be a part of this. She got a job with Air Canada, which is our national carrier. So she flew everywhere he went for free because she's an employee. So I get the same benefits. I can go anywhere.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a deal. That's amazing. Does she still work for Air Canada?
Yeah, she just did. She's got her 30th year in this year. So all throughout wrestling, my parents have been in every tournament, man.
Wow.
Every training camp, they'd be there because they just jump on a plane.
That's amazing.
But now only my dad's coming because my mom's like, I can't watch this punching stuff. But I pray for you. Be safe. And my dad comes.
I love that. That's great. And speaking of weddings, I saw a video yesterday of your wedding. This is unbelievable, this thing. Like 1,000 people. It was in some backyard. Was that your backyard that it was in with the tents and all that?
Yeah, bro. That's our farm. Yes, sir.
How big is your farm?
We got several farms now, but the one we live on, I believe, is 10 acres.
10 acres. This was the biggest wedding I've ever seen. I mean, this was like a royal wedding. Is that typical for your family, or is that? I heard that they had to shut down the streets. I saw this video. I think it was your wedding planner talking about it, and it was just. I mean, if I didn't know, I would think that you were part of like the royal family, like that you're that important of an individual. I mean, it's incredible. This thing, is that typical?
Well, first of all, Ariel, I believe you're Montreal born. You know how Indians party. First of all, when it comes to Indian weddings, we do it big.
That's bigger than big.
But aside from that, it's indicative of the love we get, man. It was a special wedding. We had a lot of people. People flew in. It was a special night for sure.
Wow. Was that this year?
It was our 1 year this July. So last summer.
Okay. Wonderful. And this is the home that you're in now, and you live with 20 other people there?
Yes, sir. We're packed in tight, brother.
I love it. And so you mentioned the WWE champion Jinder Mahal. Fans were disappointed not to see him walk out with you. How long have you known him for? So
the story with Jinder, man. That's another cool one. So I was in university at that time, and I was wrestling for our university. So he's a native Albertan. He's from Calgary, which is about 2 hours outside of Edmonton. So I was there actually, and that's when we first connected. So he knew me from the wrestling scene. that sort of thing. And he was trying to make it. He's developing in the pro wrestling arena himself. He wrestled a little bit in high school as well. And we ran into each other after one of my tournaments out in his hometown of Calgary. When I was out after the tournament, he's like, "Hey, you're Arjan, this, that." I'm like, yeah, bro, what's going on? And he was probably one of the few people, like in that whole city, he was the only other Indian who was bigger than me. I was like, "Who's this guy?" And we kind of hit off. And we stayed in touch ever since, bro. I was 19 probably then, 20. And we stayed in touch ever since. And here we are now, right? It's he's at the top of the food chain where he's at. And I'm looking to make my mark out here. So it's pretty cool what life lays out for you.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I thought it was a tremendous idea. Was it on your part to have him walk out with you to get him? That was, and that just shows how your mind works as far as promotion is concerned. Unfortunately, due to the hurricane, he couldn't get out to accompany you to the cage on Saturday. For the second one, are we going to try to do this? Is that the plan? This has to happen at least once, right?
For sure. So yeah, we had already talked about it before. He had come out to Vancouver for one of his shows. I saw him do his thing to put him through a table, Ariel.
Oh my
God! Put
gosh.
my guy through a table. So it wasn't cool. Seth Rollins put him through a table. I wasn't happy about that. But I told him, okay, it's your turn now. You got to come out to one of my deals. And it was kind of lining up. So his schedules were usually pretty packed. But he shot me a message. He goes, "Hey, bro, I got the weekend off. I'm coming out to your fight. Let me know if I could be a part of it in any other way." This, that, because we already talked cross promotion. We're like, look, man, how cool can it be? We've got a personal relationship, but the two sports go hand in hand, especially in a market like India, where majority of the people still think it's not scripted out there, the pro wrestling.
Wow.
So when I got that message, I'm like, perfect. And then the wheels started moving. And yeah, he was supposed to walk out, and we were supposed to do big, but the hurricane came through, man. So everything's meant to be the way it unfolds. So it'll happen in the near future for sure.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I mean, it's such a big deal to have someone like you in the UFC now. They've never had someone like you in there before. And I was talking to your manager, Abraham, this past week, and I was like, why isn't this a bigger deal? Why aren't they pushing it more? This is such a huge deal, not just for Canada. There's so many Indians in Canada, but all around the world. I can't say it enough. This is a gigantic deal. And plus the way you speak and the way you represent yourself. And what he told me was, they just want to get the first one out of the way. And so then afterwards, we'll see the big push. Is that your understanding as well? Were you expecting more publicity going in? You kind of flew under the radar a little bit. I know locally it was a big deal, but I feel like they should have pushed you more going into this debut.
Ariel, the approach I'm taking is we're doing everything in-house. And anything else the company or anyone else does is going to be bonus. So if you can tell, we had everything planned out from our flights to everyone coming into town, our own shirts, our own everything. So I'm taking that same approach. Like I said, we've got great connects throughout the years of success that we've had. The Indians are real tight. And like you said, we're global, man. It's not just India. You got the UK, you got Dubai, you got Singapore, you got the US, you got Canada, you got everywhere. We're everywhere. There's 3 billion worldwide. So there's so much, I had a guy document my follow me into my last fight, into my signing of my contract. And we're cutting that documentary now. It's going to be called 1 Billion Strong. And so we're gonna look for a distribution deal for that, so people can understand the full story and what it took to get here. So there's so much stuff that I just took it upon myself. You only got one shot at life, especially as an athlete. Your window's open for this long, so we're gonna make it happen. And shame on you, Ariel. Some people had reached out to you and said our boy's coming.
What? Before
the fight, and you didn't believe, or you didn't reach out. Yeah, they told me my friends and family were on you. They're like, hey, we told Ariel. I go, don't worry. Let the first fight get through. They're all going to come.
And here I am. Now, in my defense, I get a lot of tweets. I don't see them all. But ask DC. I've been talking about you. I've been talking about you to DC for quite some time. And at the weigh-ins, he was sitting there. I was joking with him. He was like a little fan in the front row taking pictures of you. It was really cool to see. But I'm on the bandwagon. Trust me on this. I'm putting you over, my man, but I didn't see those tweets, so I'm sorry. We need to up your social media game. You just got 1,000 Twitter followers. What's up with that?
Man, I wasn't even on social media heading into the Olympics. I got on social media after. My belief on that was, number one, I don't like the distractions and stuff anyways before. But number two, I was like, I'm not a fan of this social media stuff. I don't want people watching me live my life. Go live your lives. Go do what you guys want to do. Live purposefully and chase your dreams. Why are you guys watching? Millions of people watch others do what they want. When you're wasting your time, go do something. Then someone actually sat me down and gave me a different spin on it. They go, look, if you can light that spark into someone when they're following you to go do that, wouldn't you want to? I was like, you know what? You are right. That's when I got on social media. Aside from that, and even now, I have to get those pieces together. Like I said, the business aspect and all that. But the story's there. The real deal, this is all the pieces are there. You just have to, do this the right way now moving forward, I guess.
Now, Arjan, I have to ask you about this, and I'm not trying to create some kind of big drama here, but the fight game is all about personalities, individuality, being unique, standing out. There's no one, more unique than you right now in the UFC. You are the first representing billions of people. When I was a young boxing fan, there was a fighter by the name of Dmitry Salita, who was an Orthodox Jew, and he would walk out with a kippah. And to me, as a Jewish person, I was like, that is so cool. I don't see Jewish people walking out to the ring. I connect with this man just because of how he looks. How are you not allowed to wear a turban to the cage? To me, that promotionally, that makes no sense. In fight sports, we accuse promoters of sometimes using stereotypes, right? You want to do this, like dressing the guy up as such and such to connect with people. Here's a guy who wants to do this to connect with people, who wants to represent, and you were denied that. How did this happen? How do we rectify this? I understand the Reebok deal, I get it, but this is just a small thing to represent your people that you want to do. I mean, this is a travesty. We need to correct this. How does this happen?
Okay, so I didn't want to really touch on that too much, especially before the fight and immediately after. But you being the ace journalist that you are, I don't know how you got wind of this, but it is something that I'm looking to rectify, and I'm a prideful Indian, man. It's both ways. If I'm able to do that, there are benefits for the company and such that they have to be able to see. I can kind of walk you through what happened as well, and I will in a second. But even as a wrestler, as I was dreaming as a kid, I said, you know what? I get up to the Olympic ceremony. I want to do that. I want to wear a turban, so everyone knows that's an Indian. That's one of our people. You know what I mean? And I did that opening ceremonies, and it was huge. I got messages from around the world for that, and I wasn't even on social media at that time. So. That was something I had envisioned for that, and it's something I envision here. You got a company like the WWE who embraces that. And for me, it's not like I'm not dressing up to sell something. It's who I am. If you know what kind of passion I have and pride I have of who I am, that's a natural thing for me. I'm not doing it to dress up or what have you. So essentially, what it was I brought it up, and I think there was some ignorance within the company with the individual I had first brought it up to. So they said there's a Reebok issue in terms of headpieces and because they have their hats and their own headbands, that it has to be Reebok. And I'm like, well, and I didn't get too much into it because I was emotional and I had a fight in 2 days. And my team's like, look, does Reebok sell turbans? What are you saying? This isn't the same thing. And I've seen before Khabib walk out with his papaka, I think it's called, right? So I know that they're not that stringent on this type of stuff. That's why it wasn't brought up sooner. I didn't think it was going to be an issue. Like they'd be like, for sure, this isn't some other company you're representing or anything. This is you're representing yourself. So there was a Reebok issue there, and then there was some ignorance, because we told them that the feedback was, if you can't wear it on your head, can you wear it somewhere else? And I go, you don't wear a turban somewhere else. I don't think you know what this is. You can't. Maybe you can wear it around your arm, like an arm sleeve or something, and we could work with you on that. And I want to be respectful because the individual didn't know, and she had to Google what Sikhs were. She had to really look into it beyond that, and she was being respectful. How can I work with you to do this? So there was a bit of ignorance there, and we said, you know what? And she goes, okay. We sent her some more information our defense minister in Canada wears a turban. There are our RCMP in Canada have made an exception where all Sikhs can wear turbans. This is what the turban, how important it is. And so we sent some of that information to her and said, can you just look this over, please? And I'm sure she's got people that look over her that she had to pass it along to, because she said the call is not going to come from me. And then I'm sure it got passed around like a hot potato. No one wanted to touch it, I'm assuming. And we didn't hear anything. And then at weigh-ins, someone from higher up came and talked to me. He's higher up in the company, and he goes, "Look, I live in Fresno. I know exactly what a turban is. I know what your people are. My kid has classmates and peers that are turban Sikhs." And he goes, "Please don't take this as disrespect. It's just a little late to kind of get this going." And I was disappointed because I thought, it's the first time. You don't get your first time back. It would have been something very special. He said, moving forward, we want to rectify this. So I didn't want it to be a distraction for the fight and overshadow kind of what we were trying to do. I'm taking it as an opportunity to educate and get more awareness out there, which I will do moving forward. And not just within the company, beyond as well. And funny enough, Dana's neighbor is a turban Sikh. I know the guy. And I sent him a message. I'm like, "Hey, man, funny enough, this is what's going on." He's like, "You want me to go wake up him and his lawyers right now? We can get this sorted." I go, "No, I don't want it. I don't want that approach to happen. I'm fresh in the company. But I think maybe, if we can pass some messages along moving forward, I want to educate, the decision makers on what we're trying to do." So, shout out to Jess Winder. That's his neighbor, and he's going to help me out moving forward too.
Okay. So you're confident that for your next fight, you'll be able to wear the turban?
Everything from, the higher ups beyond the first interactions. I've had higher ups on the ground there. From what they've told me, the head of the PR had told me, heading into your guys' media scrum, that gentleman, it should be rectified. And I want to work with them. They say they want to work with me. So I don't see it being an issue. And I'm excited to make that happen moving forward.
Good. I hope cooler heads prevail, or I hope that they come to their senses on this one, because I think it would be a great visual, and you are an inspiration to a lot of these people, and I've heard from a lot of them, and a lot of fans have come up to me and told me how excited they were to have you in the UFC. So you're going to open a lot of doors for them. It would be foolish to not let you do that. By the way, speaking of the next fight, I mean, Winnipeg seems like a no-brainer. Is that the goal in December for you to return then?
We will see, man. I'm just handling a few things right now, and after go of this fight, I'm heading off to India in 3 weeks. Going to do some PR out there, and
oh, nice.
Like I said, we're wrapping up this documentary. So I want to. I can fight out, like I can go every other month. Really, I'm healthy. I'm good to go. But at the same time, I understand the business aspect of it and the other pieces I'm trying to create beyond sport, and I want to make sure everything's up to speed. It is a new market we're trying to break over there. So I want to make sure everything's developing at the right time. And ultimately, the decision of jumping in the cage, I will leave up to my coaches. I just train and I make sure I'm ready to go.
Last thing for you, Arjan, and again, thank you so much for the time. This has been a lot of fun for me. I am a really big fan of yours and your story. Do you consider yourself a pioneer? Do you put that label on yourself?
For sure. Why not? For me, it's always been to be the best, period. The fact that I could be a first for my people, definitely. I'm huge on legacy, Ariel. When I look back and I'm old and I'm done, and people forget what I was about. At least I want to look back and say I did something. I accomplished something. There's a reason for me to be on this earth, and I had an impact. So anytime you can create a lasting legacy and be in the history books, it is special for sure.
What a great debut. What a great story. We're looking at some of the photos right now. That slam, I like that nod to your wrestling roots with the slam. You're just kind of chilling there with Enrique on your shoulders. That was great. Congratulations to you, Arjan. Continued success. I hope that they push you to the moon, put you in the right fights, because this could be a huge deal for the sport of MMA and for your people as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I have a feeling we'll be talking to you soon. And thank you also for representing Canada so well on the global stage. As a Canadian, I appreciate that greatly as well. So thank you. All the best. Congratulations. And we'll talk to you soon. Safe travels out to India as well.
Thank you, my brother. We'll be in touch, and I appreciate you getting me on the show. It's one of the things on the bucket list.
Thank you so much. There he is, Arjan Singh Bhullar, stopping by, newest member of the UFC's heavyweight division. Great stuff from him. As you can tell, I'm impressed. What a story. And let's figure this out. The Turban deal. Like I've said before, I get the Reebok deal. I get that they signed it. I get it. But this sport is all about individuality. It's all about being unique. It's all about being yourself. And you have someone with his background who wants to represent. In the past, like WWE has been accused of stereotyping, of taking people who aren't even from a certain background and trying to make them into like the worst kinds of stereotypes. And here you have a guy who is so proud of his roots, who all he wants to do is wear a turban and then take it off. He doesn't want to fight with it, and then take it off as he enters the cage. What's the big deal? Reebok's everywhere. Let's figure it out. And I'm assuming as this gets up the chain, I have a feeling it will all get sorted. And I am not, lest you think I am overstating how important he is now to the company, just Google how many Indians live in this world. Google how many people live in India. Google how popular fight sports are in that country and to those people. This is a big deal. One down, successful. Daniel Cormier speaks the world of him. That's good enough for me. Looking forward to his next fight.